All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you as always. I know I was supposed to start the live stream at 1300 hours, but I had an interview in Washington, D.C. with an entity called Political Misfit. Very, very interesting. That's with John Coriaco. I had him here before, and Michelle Wady, that's his co host. So, anyway, I was done earlier, so I figured I may as well just start with this our conversation here. So anyway, excited to be with you, and today I'm going to be talking to you about developments regarding two Muslim countries, two kingdoms, Saudi Arabia and Jordan, which I am not surprised by their position regarding not allowing their airspace for any Iranian missiles to cross over. So funny how they will allow Israeli missiles to go over their airspace to attack the H group in Yemen. So I don't know. We're gonna get into the details. Given my familiarity with both locations, as I said, I spent time in the Middle East, especially in that part of the world. So I worked with their government, so I understand the ins and outs. In addition to writing a book about, in the case of Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, that book will not be allowed in Saudi Arabia. Mark my word on it. So, to those who might be interested in reading the book, I know some of you guys already got it. I have the link for it here, guys. It's right here. If you go to, I have it in Buy Me Coffee. It's like $10 or $8, whatever that is. So anyway, if you get a chance to read it, it's worth your time. So this is what I'm going to be addressing today. So let me see who is here, and we just start our conversation here quickly. Hasim Big Bisir, good to see you. Miserable excuses for men, indeed. Yahshua, good to see you. Timeline Dunkley, good to see you. Farhad Razavi, as always. Preston Young, Willie Holman, Daniela, Abdullah Hamad Siri, Masian Dorcier, and UTU Super YT. Good to see you. Matt Becky, there you are. Good to see you. All right, guys, let me get into this because I got a lot to cover, and I have to, because I'll be going back and forth between whatever I'm going to be sharing with you as far as the analysis of today and also what I wrote in my book to put it in perspective for you. Because what I wrote back then is kind of reflects on the current condition today. So, well, our topic today is to talk about, really, should we be surprised that Saudi Arabia and Jordan decided to help defend Israel? So that's, to me, is disturbing. And I am not advocating for conflicts, wars, and all that stuff. No, 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 no. Violence is never the answer. I don't believe. Yes, I understand. In matters of situations like this, sometimes you're going to have to meet force with force. So it's the reality of it. So, and this is what basically what happened is that the Saudis and the Jordanians, two monarchies in the Muslim world, even though, by the way, guys, do you know that in the, at least from what I read, I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I read that throughout the history of Islam, the religion of Islam, they're not supposed to be a monarchy to begin with. Yeah. So how those guys decide to become a king and all that stuff, it's beyond me. But again, it's their country; they can decide whatever they want. So Saudi Arabia decided now to have informed. I'm sorry, have informed Iran that they Saudi Arabia and Jordan will not allow their airspace for any Iranian missile or drone to pass over on a route to Israel. Uh, so here are the questions that I'm going to be sharing with you, and we can elaborate on this further as we move forward. By the way, guys, you're going to be seeing some flickering into the image here. They are working on the tower, the connection for the 5G. I just saw them this morning, and this has been going on. There is nothing I can do. I do have the best internet connection here, but you're going to be seeing this. What are they doing? What the government is doing with that? I don't know. So anyway, that's how it is. What's the questions we have to ask is what's behind the Saudi Arabia and Jordan decision? Second question, what did these two monarchs got in return? This is not about money. So especially for Saudi Arabia, they don't need money from the West. Jordan is a different story, and I'm going to get into that. The third question, how will the Muslim world perceive Saudi Arabia and Jordan's possession? Those are legitimate questions that I believe both countries don't have a good standing in the Arab world already, or the Muslim world for that matter. But again, I'll let you be the judge on this one here. So this is what I'm going to get into today in providing my own analysis in addition to where I see this moving forward. So, well, of course, when you look at this uneasy alliance, if I may use the term, that is now forming to defend Israel, because remember, pardon me, the US is calling for an alliance, so to come into support of Israel. Okay, well, who's going to be in this alliance? The Europeans? The Europeans can do squat. So that leaves the countries in the region in West Asia. So, but you have already some, because our State Department reached out to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and United Arab Emirates. So the key player, and Iraq, of course. But Iraq wasn't mentioned much. So here's the thing, what I need you to understand. Already, Egypt issued a statement saying, we are not getting involved. In other words, we are not supporting Israel, even though Egypt and Israel have signed the peace treaty, right? So the Camp David peace treaty, which, by the way, that wasn't about peace for Israel. It was about us giving them money, meaning bribing them, the Egyptians, not to do anything against Israel. That's what it was about. So the peace accord or agreements between Egypt and Israel it was about buying Egypt. But anyway, Egypt said, we're not getting involved. Bahrain, Kuwait, I think those two, Bahrain and Kuwait, already stated publicly, and they announced and told the US, we will not allow the launching of anything from our soil. Why? Because Bahrain and Kuwait, they have US military presence, bases there. Okay, that leaves us with Qatar and United Arab Emirates. Qatar, going back and forth. United Arab Emirates, you can't trust them. So remember, it was United Arab Emirates that established relations with Israel, in addition to Morocco and Jordan, and I think it was another African country. I forgot what it was. Anyway, 4 countries that did. And that leaves us with the 2 main ones, Saudi Arabia and Jordan. And this is exactly where we're going to, how it's going to move forward. So it's going to be basically for those 2 countries, things is not going to be easy. I understand that. Even though both the Saudis and the Jordanians are saying, oh, we decided to take these steps for our own security. It's a lie. It's nonsense. Iran is not going to attack Saudis or the Jordanians for that matter. So what security are we talking about? Unless they're talking about the fear that Israel might attack. Israel will not attack Saudi Arabia and Jordan. They won't do it that way anyway. So that leaves us with the last, the one only option is that, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, is that the Jordan and Saudi Arabia were pressured by the US and Israel behind the scenes. Because remember, it is one thing that, shocker, might surprise you. It was Saudi Arabia during the time of when MBS came to power per se. He's the de facto king. He's not a king yet. He's de facto king, crown prince. During that time, it was a deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia. $250 million of spyware. And it was that spyware that ended up targeting this individual. And I want you to tell me who this person is. If you can type it in the chat box. Let me see. Yayatri Adarsh, you got it. That was Mr. Jamal Khashoggi, the late Jamal Khashoggi. So, and how do you think they tracked the guy? They tracked him through. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to. Here we go. Because that's spyware, Pegasus. That's what the Saudis put, and I'll get into that as I move forward. So I had a chance to read. Of course, I do my own reading when it comes down to stuff like this, just to see where the stories are in the West versus the East. That's how I've always done it. So I came across an article by Cream. It's Greem Wood, and I will put the link for you guys, articulating what's going on about all this issue here. So, well, of course, if you are to go back, like I mentioned earlier, for the decision of the Saudis, and mind you, the Saudis just reestablished their diplomatic ties with Iran, thanks to China for that. Saudis have also joined BRICS. Makes you just wonder now. I'll admit it. I never trusted the Saudis. I don't trust the Saudis. Simple as that. So, but again, that's my opinion. And the idea of when you have to go back when MBS came to the scene per se, he was only 36 years old at that time. And of course, he was arguing that I'm going to lead the country into transformation and so forth. However, what took place in 2018 with the demise of Mr. Jamal Khashoggi, that became in 2018, as a matter of fact, MBS started to curtail his travels around the world. And the reason for that, because the conclusion was during one interview, is that the CIA concluded that it was MBS who gave the order for the killing of Mr. Jamal Khashoggi. So this is how it happened. And that's moving forward from that. And that's a long history. I'm not going to get into it. Suffice it to say that if we are to think about how these two countries all of a sudden decided on something like this, it's mind-boggling. Of course, the king himself is in a vegetative state. Anyway, he can move, just a matter of days. And it becomes the question of the de facto leader here, MBS. And this is where the Israelis has to, I may use the term seduce the crown prince because he's young, 36 years old, no experience whatsoever. And he came with this brutality as far as how he wants to rule the kingdom, because it's very complicated. If you get a chance to read my book, my computer is flickering, guys. There is nothing I can do. It's whatever they're doing into this. So, and that is one of the key issue that now hang over. Of course, the West has to embrace. This is why you don't hear much about the Saudis regarding these aspects. So, because it was swept under the rug. So, but let us talk about, first of all, and I'm going to do this, guys, in two ways. In one way, basically. Not two ways. Meaning two countries. I'm going to talk about Saudi Arabia. Then I'm going to talk about Jordan. And provide you my own analysis why each one of them embarked on this decision. So when you think about Saudi Arabia, so you think about the conditions of the economy for the kingdom. You have a high unemployment. You got a country that depends solely on oil. Okay, then you start to think, what will happen when oil runs out? And third thing is, you talk about a country that is 100%, 100% depends on the U.S. for its security. So I know this for a fact because I worked in Saudi Arabia. I was the one dealing with the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence in coordination with the Saudi government. So I'm aware of those kind of things, how it works. So, but makes you to think about the conditions inside the kingdom itself, which is not very, very sort of promising given what's going on inside the country. So, and like I said earlier, I wrote a book about it. That book will not be published. It will not be circulated in Saudi Arabia. They're not going to allow it anyway. I don't care whether they allow it or not. But here is the thing. When you think about, I like what I wrote back then, and I argued, after the passage of desert sands in the hourglass of history, on again and off again, Saudi Arabia realizes its impulsive strategies and ill-conceived policies are no longer serving its own interests. So whoever thought that in this era of chest pounding, the kingdom will finally reach out. You know what they did back then? They reached out to Iraq, asking Iraq to play a mediator in relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So, and because why? Because at that time, Iran reached an agreement regarding the Iran nuclear deal. You can't forget all this. You have to put this in perspective to provide you a full picture. And this is why you realize other immediate concerns as to what will become of Saudi Arabia, considering now the Middle East geopolitical landscape is shifting beyond its control. Because Saudis used to, and I use the term in the past, used to play a major role. No. And this is why I'm saying, all of a sudden, they reached an agreement with Iran to reestablish diplomatic relations. And I'm not saying Saudis should do what they need to do for their own country. I'm not denying this. It just makes you just wonder about the lip service that they are giving the Muslim community. So, because like I always say, when leadership, to find out about true leadership, is when it's tested. Here it is. So, and the reason also because of the economic conditions inside Saudi Arabia, I was there. I used to talk to the young Saudis because I speak their language. And I'll admit it, they were so kind to me. No issues whatsoever. Whether I'm American or not, it's beside the point. So, but the thing is, I've always argued that the Saudis need to build a skilled and educated workforce. So if you want to compete in the global economy, that is one of the reasons why they went to BRICS. But now I am thinking, yeah, they will play a good role in BRICS with one caveat, assuming they will not be undermining BRICS policies through pressure from the United States from behind the scenes. This is where my concern now. So, because here is the reality, because it became like a cliche now. When it comes to Saudi Arabia, religious and educational reform, because you're going to have to think about these aspects of it. So if they are to say that they're playing a role into the Muslim world, they consider themselves like a leader of the Muslim world, which, by the way, it's nonsense. Who gives them that authority? Just because they have the Mecca and Medina, two holy sites on their territory, it doesn't give them the right to the leadership in the Muslim world. But hypothetically, we go with that. And if they are to say this, that we are the leader of the Muslim world, how can you allow the massive destruction against other fellow Muslims? Yeah, that's to me sort of, and this is where that religion comes in as far as the marriage between religion and the monarchy. You have to understand this, make more sense to you. So now, because the religious establishment inside Saudi Arabia could be detrimental to the survival of the monarchy. So this is what's very, very important. So, and this is why they are now thinking about some economic ventures of sort. So the exploration of other scientific fields, for example, because the Saudis need to stop blaming all its social ills on the West. You know, that's nonsense. And because here is the interesting thing. Even the religion itself, the Islam in this case, has advocated for exploring science and knowledge and so forth. Just look at the history of the golden years of the Islamic history. So, and this is why, as I mentioned earlier, 100% Saudi Arabia depends on the U.S. security, because Saudi Arabia will depend only on the U.S. They can't defend themselves. I know this for a fact. Hypothetically, if it were a war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Iran will wipe out the military, the Saudi, in no time. So even when Saudis were attacking Yemen at that time, we were the one helping them behind the scenes. They won't be able to. That's how it works. So the Saudis depend on the US to provide it with security. So Saudi Arabia fully understand that its survival in a neighborhood that has no love for them. It's because the hypocrisy. And I am not here to talk down on Saudi Arabia. I'm not here about that. I am here to provide the facts. Simple as that. And I don't shy away from that. So please, to those who might think that I am talking negatively about Saudi, come on, rethink your statements. And the idea for the Saudis to navigate these waters in a shifting Middle East, this is now one of the situations that now the tensions between Iran and Israel is going to reach a boiling. They are reaching boiling point, and Iran will eventually launch something of surprise on the Israelis, and Iran does not need to have now the airspace of Jordan and Saudi Arabia, because they have missiles that can go even farther. So here's the thing. To the Saudis, for them to navigate this changing, shifting landscape in the Middle East, the Saudi government, the same with us, sort of have to create an enemy, whether it is real or perceived. Back then, the enemy was Iran. Later on, the enemy became the Houthi group or Ansarullah. Tomorrow, we don't know who's going to become. So, depending, all this depending on the Al Saud pick of the day, whatever the monarchy decides to do, because this is part of their survival. You have to understand, it's a survival mechanism. So, and this is why the monarchy had to go about it this way, to maintain a distraction of a society that is oblivious and obscure from important societal, governmental, and economic information. Because here is the hard truth. And I disclose this in a book, so if you ever get a chance to read it. The Saudi society, and again, I was there. I am talking based on evidence. I'm talking based on me being on the ground and talking to locals. The Saudi society is conditioned from cradle to grave to depend on the Saudi government to provide it its daily bread in return for absolute loyalty and total obedience. That's the key word there for you. And this outcome has contributed to a society that is unaware and ignorant of the danger that lies ahead, especially when MBS came to the scene with his dictatorial governing style. But it's, again, it's their country. They can do whatever they want. So and the other aspect that you need to understand is that for now, this agreement that Iran and Saudi Arabia have reached is going to put now a lot of question mark. And not for the sake of the relationship between Iran and... No. It's just for the sake of the Palestinians. So, because this, in my opinion, shows that the Saudis don't give a hoot about the Palestinians. They never did. And as a matter of fact, I am going to go as far as saying not just the Saudis, the entire Muslim world. They've always given the Palestinians the lip service. It's the hard truth. And the way to understand all these dynamics, you have to understand one particular organization. And that organization called the OIC. This is the organization of the Islamic Conference. The one was established back in 1969. In your opinion, who is funding this organization? Does anybody know? Please type it in a chat box if you would, please. Who is funding the OIC? And I will tell you why. That is because you need to understand this. Let me see in the chat box. Sam Serena, no, it's not the US. Hamad City, you're right. It just talk. OIC is nothing but a talk. David King, Israel. No. Ramzi Abdurrahman, you got it. It's Saudi Arabia that is funding the OIC. So, but you have to understand why. Because the relationship between the Al Saud and the Wahhabism, the religious ideology, establishment that extend beyond the borders of Saudi Arabia. This is why you see in the propagation, the propagation of the Wahhabism ideology in different regions of the world. We're talking about Pakistan, Sudan, Nigeria, Niger, Indonesia, Afghanistan, and you got the idea. So that ideology itself have even reached some countries in Europe. That included even beyond Finland, Germany and Albania, New Zealand, and even the United States, among others. And all this for the facilitation of the use of the petrodollar. That's what it is. You have to understand those dynamics, because this one demonstrates the reach by which Saudi Arabia is willing to go to sustain its religious leadership. Now, it was one comment from someone of you guys put in the community. Well, this one has to do with the Saudis wanted to fight the Shia and so forth. There is some logical arguments into that, but also the part of that argument that is missing, which some have advocated for, is that because Iran, the Shia, wants to dominate the Muslim world. It's nonsense. Yeah, there are about 157 million Shiites around the world, the Muslim world. There are 1.2 billion Muslims. Majority of them are Sunnis. So I ain't gonna work. I'm just wanted to share this with you. And this is where the Saudis draw on that leadership of the Muslim world, which to me, it's nonsense. So you have to understand all this falls within the arguments that makes you wonder. The Saudis' decision ain't about their own security. This is about the survival of the monarchy. And here is the rationale for it. When you look at the southern part, I'm going to share a map with you here. And again, I disclose this in the Saudi book in detail. When you look at the Saudi Arabia, you have Yemen at the bottom here. Where I'm pointing at it, you won't see it. But on the southeastern part of Saudi Arabia is dominated by the Shia. Now, also, this region has a lot of oil, but the locals are not benefiting from it. Is the monarchy up north in Riyadh? They get in some. It's not that they don't. And by the way, this is also where the Saudis were concerned about the Houthis. That's why they couldn't defeat them. Even now, we're thinking we are defeating the Houthis. No, and I'm going to get into the Houthis as I move forward. This is one of the issues why the Saudis communicated with Iran and saying, sorry, we're not going to allow our airspace. It's not, once again, I want you to get this point, not about security. It's the pressure from both Israel and the Saudi Arabia. So, let's move to the other country, Jordan. Now, Jordan, this guy here, and by the way, he holds dual citizenship as British also because his mother is British. So, Jordan has a serious problem, very, very serious problem. And that problem has to do with economics. So, and I did argue this one in my Iran book, and I'll get to it in a minute here. Let me first of all share with you about Jordan, where the issue for Jordan is. And Jordan, at this time, as we doing this live, Jordan suffers from high unemployment. We're talking about almost 50%. Now, take a step back and listen carefully. 50%, almost 50, to be exact, is 48%. So I rounded to 50. And I will provide you the link to all this. Consider this. Majority of these unemployed are young, between the age of 18 and 28, with nothing to do. Just think about it. Think about it. If you are between 18 and 28, have nothing to do because the conditions in the country, what are you left with? You're left with the possibilities of being recruited. This is exactly what just happened in Austria. Do you know what happened in Austria? The US said that the dismantled a cell of 3 individuals, 15, 17, and I think 18 years old. They were planning on conducting some activities during the, what's her name, that singer, Swift concert, you know. And those individuals have tied to the group I, you know which one I'm referring to because you can't say it here. So, which to me was nothing but, no, this was set up. You know. But again, young people, nothing to do, easy to recruit. That's my point. And this is one of the reality about the economic unemployment in Jordan. So, and now you're talking about Jordan's economy internally, the gap is widening, the imbalances widening, the rising debt, you know, and the low level of investments. All this pose significant challenges to the monarchy, right? Because once again, you have to think about a decision like this, decision that the Jordanian telling the Iranians, sorry, you can't use our airspace. It's about the survival of the monarchy. Simple as that. So even though there are Western think tanks advocating for how the economy of Jordan will pick up in 2024, it's the same argument we heard about India, especially we're coming from Washington. Oh, the Indian economy is going to take over the world. So all that is by design. So, because if there is one thing the Jordanians depend on, you know what it is? Tourism. That's about it. That's all they have. So that is the key. And even the conflict in Ukraine end up impacting Jordan. You know why? Because Jordan couldn't import the wheat from Russia, thanks to the sanctions. So, and in addition to the rising cost, especially on the Red Sea, thanks to the Houthis, transportation, insurance, and the global demand, all this play a role. I am trying to provide you the big picture to understand when a statement like that, the Jordanians confirm with the Iranians that they will not allow their airspace to be used for the Iranian missiles to cross over. You have to understand the big picture why. Then comes the big elephant in the room. There are two. I'll start with the first one. I'll start with the second one. And this one has to do with the peace treaty between Amman and Tel Aviv. Remember when King Hussein back then signed an agreement? Once again, that agreement, the same way Egypt did. And you know what Jordanian get in return for that? Donation from the US on a yearly basis. It was about $1.2 billion. Now it's about $1.45 billion. I just checked the record last night. So we provide them. To me, it's like, why are we giving them 1.4 billion for? You know, it's a monarchy. They can manage their own affairs. Why are we giving them my own tax dollars? To any country. To Israel, to Ukraine, to whomever, Morocco, Jordan, Egypt, you name it. Why? You know, when I see my own country that is falling apart, it is falling apart. You guys don't live here. I see. You know, infrastructure crumbling before our own eyes. System is messed up. and we're giving them $1.4 billion annual. So, and by the way, this moved from 1.2. We used to give them, it was 1.1 at some point, moved it up. So now this increase, it was by about $175 million out of tax dollars, our dollars. So, and all this is meant to help them for their economy. So now, again, I have nothing against helping whomever is in need. But wait a minute, if you are a monarchy, if you are able to sustain that lifestyle, if the monarchy is able to, that means you do have resources. Why should we give you that? And that's why, to me, it was like very, very confusing, because based on my reading, and again, that's what I read. In Islam, is not supposed to be a monarchy to begin with. So, and this comes, just you think about Jordan and Saudi Arabia, we put them aside. Then you have other Muslim countries that they are willing to take the reverse decision to the one of the Saudi Arabia and Jordan. And I'm going to give you one example here. And the reason why I wanted to mention this, which country is this? You guys should know. Just look at the flag on that missile. Can you tell me which country is that? Once again, I just want to engage you guys in the conversation here. Oh, Cam 35, you got it. Edits, you got it. John Smith, no, it's not. Cyborg, you got it. You guys got it. It's Pakistan. Why is this important? It is important because Pakistan just announced that they will supply Shaheen 3 missiles, the one you're looking at, to Iran. This is major. It's a major development. And this is, again, why you need to understand the dynamics of geopolitics. It's not about a decision that is made when it comes down to global affairs or international relations or geopolitics, whatever term you want to use. There is always a much bigger picture. It's like for us, we're saying the State Department has coordinated its effort with its Arab allies in the region in West Asia. No, it's not coordinating the effort, asking them to reach out to Iran to find a diplomatic solution. No. We're reaching out to pressure those countries. And in the case of Saudi Arabia and Jordan, because they are monarchies, their survival depends on the Saudis. And again, I was involved in training the King Special Ops. We used to call them the King's Boys. It was all about the monarchy. Simple as that. So when the Pakistan is now announcing that they will provide, it's because you all know what happened in Pakistan with Imran Khan. Why did we drag him into the mud, put him in prison, and shame on that Pakistani government that is so corrupted? But also you have to understand the big picture. Just because he was mentioned, that doesn't mean Iran's going to give the Shaheen 3 from Pakistan. You know why? It's because who controls the political decisions in Pakistan? It's not the prime minister. It's the army, the military, the ISI. I remember, by the way, I remember one day when I was in Saudi Arabia, it was a flight coming in from Pakistan. It was at that time, his name was Kayani, the head of the ISI or the army at that time, flew privately, quietly. We were aware of it because I was there. And I was like, what the heck is he doing here? Well, of course, I knew the background story. And the background story is, you guys know the background story. And it's not classified. It is public domain if you know where to look. Why do you think the Saudis are providing the Pakistanis with money? They're always writing them a check. That's why you see a lot of religious schools in Pakistan and all that stuff. But there is a much bigger picture to that. It's because the Saudis wanted to buy one of the bombs from the Pakistanis. So they have one there in case they ever need one. That is the reason why. So when you hear statement, oh, the Pakistan is going to send the Shaheen, remember, it's a much more complicated picture than what they let you know about that one. Then comes the two big elephants in a room. Another ones. Excuse me. Excuse me. And the other one has to do with the two groups. And the two groups are, you have the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and you have the Ansarullah or Houthis in Yemen. So, at the moment, you have, like, for example, locations in Tel Aviv, airports in Tel Aviv, airport in Amman, Jordan, airports in Tehran, even in Tehran, they closed. This, and I'm going to talk about Hezbollah, then I'll talk about the Houthis. Hezbollah is already targeting. We don't hear much about all this. You're not going to see it in the mainstream media. So it becomes one of those cherry picking information from the mainstream media. We'll tell you what we want you to know, but we won't tell you the truth. And that's, to me, it's no way for credible journalism at all. I am not a journalist, by the way. I don't do news. I know some think of me as a journalist. I am not. I don't have those credentials for that. My credentials are in geopolitics, as one who hold a PhD in international security, in my academic background, in my professional background. But I also understand how to read between the lines. And that is the reason why I wanted to share this with you. So we're not hearing about really the attacks that are already Hezbollah launching. And by the way, Hezbollah just disclosed that they will be willing to go alone in attacking Israel without Iran. It's not going to work that way. This is why a lot of analysts here in the US, when I say analysts, I'm referring to professional analysts, the ones with the background. They're saying, well, the Iranians said, we're going to attack next Monday. They're going to attack next Monday, or maybe the following week. How the heck do they know? How do they know? There is no such thing. That's a difference between analysis and opinion. Nobody knows. The US, the three-letter agency doesn't know. The Mossad doesn't know. The Bundesliga in Germany doesn't know. The DST in France doesn't know. Even the Russians do not know. Even the Russians have a good relationship with Iran. As a matter of fact, the GRU, the Russian military intelligence officers are in Tehran. And by the way, the Russian president did mention to the Iranian, should you decide to move forward with this, which means you read between the lines, the Russian president asked the Iranian to avoid civilian casualties. That's, to me, as an analyst, it's a foregone conclusion that that plan is going to happen. As to when and how, it will be at Iran's choosing. And a part of this strategy is PSYOPs. This is why you're seeing the evacuation from Tel Aviv. The northern part of Israel is deserted. Airports shut down in Tel Aviv. European flights to Israel are canceled. So you have to understand those dynamics. That's just part of how it works. So for Hezbollah, it's a foregone conclusion. Where the question is going to be is, will the attacks come from 4 different locations? From Iran, from Lebanon, from Iraq, from Syria, from 5 locations, 5. From Iran, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Now, how much Iron Dome can protect Israel from. So it won't. It won't. And he proved that it won't work. So, and this is why even Israelis, the military officers, the high-ranking ones, they are already saying that it will be messy once Iran retaliates. This time, Iran is not going to do what it did back in April with some rockets and all. No, it's going to be very different. The third element, the other big elephant in the room, has to do with none other than Houthis. Why is this important? Because I'm going to share a picture with you. Oh, no. Yeah, the picture went out. Sorry, guys. I know you can hear me, but here, if you can see this picture here, and I'm going to just leave it there till I come back on the screen, but I don't know. It is what it is. Life goes on. Let me see if I can reconnect it again. There we go. It's sometimes just a glitch. It has to be added. It's just the way it is. Let me see. Well, it is here, but it's not on the add picture. Okay. Let me see if it shows up. No, it doesn't show up. Yeah, it's not there. So, but I am on the screen here, but it's not going through. Let me see here. Hold on a second. There we go. Finally. Sorry. Now, the age group. Why is that important? You have to understand the importance of this. This picture you're looking at. This one is an MQ-9 Reaper that the Houthis were able to down. Second time. Reaper, the MQ-9, it's about $30 million. That's how much it cost. Ridiculous price. But that's not the point. The point about this, if the Houthis are able to down the MQ-9, it tells you what? It tells you the sophistication now of the weapons they might have just gotten recently or received recently. I am aware that they received some weapons from Russia. And now that tells you the story right there. Because to down this particular drone, which, by the way, it's very, very sophisticated type, it's just very, very surprising. Very, very surprising. If you take a look at the specs of this particular drone here, usually this one, yes, it cost about approximately $30 million. That's how the cost of it. It's very, very expensive. But the Houthis are able to down it. So how? I'm sure they have some advanced systems now that they are using into this one here. And the image, the picture of all this, the big picture that is, with the Houthis being in this, if Hezbollah comes from the north, Iran comes from the east, or however, whatever direction is going to come. Because if you look at the map, and I'm going to share it with you briefly here. Here's the map. So you take those two countries, Iraq, I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia and Jordan. Jordan is this tiny one here. So you take those countries. So that leaves what? It leaves the Iraq airspace. Iraq is not going to say no to Iran, not because they are afraid of Iran or whatever. It's different. It's different dynamics now. But Iran has long range. And even if it does not work, all Iran needs to do is either provide those missiles to Yemen or provide them to Lebanon. Of course, not the same missiles, because the range, they're going to have to provide them. If they go to Lebanon, the missiles are to Lebanon, then it will be short range or medium range. If they go to Yemen, then it's going to be between medium, long range. That's the way it's going to work. And this is where I see the Houthi downing that MQ-9. And even if the US deploy this type here, this is an MQ-25. And I give credit to the US Navy. That's their picture here. It's a Stinger Gray. So this is the new type of, and I'm not going to get into the specs of all this because that's not the purpose of this conversation here. So my point is I wanted to provide you a framework for you to understand when a decision like the Saudis made, which to me looks more like a betrayal to the Muslim world. I understand their concern and security and all that, but it's not about security. It's about the survival of the monarchy. Straightforward. Simple as that. There is no ifs and buts. And it becomes their fear also, they, meaning Iran, Saudi Arabia and Jordan, their fear is from within. If their population uprise, that'll be a bad news for the kingdom survival. Because the kingdom depends, in the case of Saudi Arabia, this is why they give stipends to the society to keep them, like I mentioned in the book. The Saudi society has been catered to from cradle to the end in return for absolute loyalty and unquestionable obedience. Jordan, slightly different, but Jordan also has that tribe mentality. So they all rally around. The key players are the head of tribes and all that stuff. They have to rally around the king because they are getting something in return for that. And the population that sadly, and by the way, guys, I'll say it because to me it's true. Sadly, this is a reflection not just about Saudi Arabia or Jordan. It's about the Muslim world or the Arab world for that matter. Is the population. And the Palestinian issue has always been a useful tool for the Arab leaders to use when things get hot inside their countries, as far as the failure of their economic, education, healthcare, infrastructure, you name it. To divert or distract the population, you as a leader in an Arab country, you let a demonstration in support of the Palestinian people or the Palestinian cause. When in reality, there is already an arrangement behind the scenes between those Arab leaders and Israel and the United States and so forth. It is sad to see what has become of our humanity and the images you see now, and it's very sad. It really pains me to see what has become. And my country is getting on the wrong path. Has been on the wrong path. So, I mean, yeah, that is one of the reasons why I made a conscious decision to consider relocating elsewhere. So it's just the reality of it. So. What else I need to share with you is, I think that's about it. That's all I have to cover. Oh yeah, one particular aspect in about this one, but from a different perspective, when I wrote my Iran book, not the Saudi book, which, by the way, guys, I will upload the book soon, electronic version of it. I got a letter from the publisher. They're saying to me that I own the full rights of the book, which means what? Can anybody explain this to me? Is there any lawyer here, guys? They told me you own the full right of the book. That means I can publish it on my own if I want to. So, but I will publish it for you guys. So, I uploaded rather in the Buy Me Coffee. You can buy it for, I put usually books at $15, $20 max, but $15 will be better than $80. That's what they charge you for it. So as I argued in my Iran book, I said all things being equal, I argued the religious establishment within countries like Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and other Sunni countries saw Iran revolution of 1979 as a threat to their ruling and their religious identity. This is exactly why Saudi Arabia and Jordan made that decision. So Interesting enough, which a lot of people do not know, is that Jordan went ahead and cut a deal with South Korea with the approval of the United States to build them a nuclear research reactor. Yeah. The Saudis have asked us to build them a nuclear power plant, share the nuclear technology. And I was like, what? That would be crazy. That would be crazy. So anyway, guys, that's all I have to share with you. I am going to be answering some of your questions here because we got another 10 minutes before I sign off, and I'll share them with you. I want to give you an update on my upcoming Asia trip. Things are moving forward. I'm still short about $3,000, but I have time between now and the end of August, hopefully. So I pinpoint the locations. I did find, for example, this is just an example, a flight from Indonesia to China will be about 3 hours. So I am considering the possibilities for that. I have not decided. And it was some idiot, by the way, and I use the term idiot, who put a comment that's saying, all I'm doing is asking you guys for money. What a stupid comment. That just showed the low level. Pathetic. So, but again, what you do, you forgive ignorance. Someone who put a comment like that have no understanding of whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he or she will do me a favor if he doesn't come here at all, because that's like a poison. Our community deserves better. I don't need people like that. Anyway, for guys, if you want to support the channel, this is for the trip, Asia trip. I have now a Bitcoin, should you decide to do that. And by the way, someone asked me a question about, is it time to buy Bitcoin? I am not a financial advisor, guys. I am not. For me personally, yes, I will do it because it went down. Now it's going back up. You know, you buy when it's low. It's common sense. So, and that's what I will do. So. This one here is PayPal for those who wants to use PayPal. I have different platforms that makes it easier for whomever and however should you decide to support the channel and Asia trip. This one here is for the channel, not for Asia trip. So, but I am aware of some private donations. They were substantial, and I intend to use that money that was sent to this platform to be used for the Asia trip. So, however, I prefer that the donations for Asia trip goes to the Asia platform. Right here, this one is for the Asia trips. Anyway, let's answer some questions from you guys, and we'll just go from there. Oh, I did put one aside already. Oh, Swissy. Thank you so much for your super sticker. You wrote, KSA has been threatened over 9/11 by US. US has protected them all the time. My theory. You are absolutely correct. I was aware of the investigation that was swept under the rug in Congress. It's because the members of the 9/11 families were asking for that, and Congress swept it under the rug. But on the other hand, you need to understand the big picture about 9/11. So I might do a live stream, but not here on the other side. So I can do that. So thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate you. All right, let me see some questions from you. I had a question earlier from Timeline Dunkley, and I put it aside and I didn't see it. I thought it was saved. Oh, well. Timeline Dunkley, if you could repost that question you asked earlier. It was an earlier question. What way are you doing? And please, by the way, guys, please hit the like button. I will really appreciate it. Yeah, the channel is growing slow, but it is what it is. You all know the content, the nature of the content, guys. And I am not after the million subscriber, whatever. All that stuff doesn't really make sense to me. It doesn't. It's the quality that matter. And I'd rather have quality over quantity. So, and thank you all for your support. All right, let me see, and I'm scrolling up to see if I see a question. Yeah, I do remember seeing the one from Timeline Dunkley. Let me see it again. Oh, Francis Tango. Thank you so much, man. Truly appreciate you. Hi, Dr. O. I can only buy you coffee. That's fine. That is fine, Francis. And you've been doing a lot behind the scenes. I'm aware of it. And I promised you, I will drink a coffee in your honor when I am in Asia. So you will know. You will know. I will do that. Thank you so much, Francis. Truly appreciate you. Okay, let me see. Where is this? Hongwan, good to see you. Alice Talokin, good to see you. Jimmy Jonga, good to see you as well. Let me see the question. That was a good question, Francis. Timeline Dunkley. I wish I would have saved it, but where is that? Okay. Maybe next time we do this. We do it this way, guys. Next time you prepare your questions ahead of time, and I'll put it in the community, and I'll cut and paste and save them after I finish my conversation. I just go, or my analysis rather, and just go and start, pick 3 or 4 questions and share them with you. Yeah. Timeline Dunkley, that question disappeared, man. I don't see it here. So interesting. Yeah, I don't see it here. So if and as a matter of fact, I didn't see any question from you guys. But in any event, for those who really want to learn more about Saudi Arabia, check out my book on Buy Me Coffee and their extras, where it says extras. That's where I have the book there for like literally some like $7 or $10, whatever that was. Should you decide to do that, you will learn a lot. And I'm not saying it because I wrote the book, whatever. I'm saying it because of the nature of the information that is there. That book had to be cleared by the U.S. government, because I can't publish anything without, especially my books, they have to be cleared by Washington, and that just that's the way it is. Johannes Dharma, here is a question. I heard India doesn't want new member for BRICS for the next 5 years. Is this true? I didn't hear this one. I am not aware of it. But even if it is true, I can see why India does not want that. The reason being because it will diminishes its clout within BRICS. Even though it does not have much clout, but it's a founding member. But now you bringing in countries that matter, like Iran, like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. Those are energy producing countries. And soon I'm even hearing now conversation about Venezuela, the possibility of Venezuela, another oil producer. So I can see why India will not want that. But again, and this is again start to be has always been my concern about which country is going to be playing, that kind of undermining the progress of BRICS as an economic bloc. And again, I believe that if the policies inside BRICS are not cohesive, BRICS stands no chance as far as its credibility. This is where the challenge that I see. And now with the Saudi decision, I'm starting to, I'm not jumping to conclusions yet, but I am starting to be a little bit concerned about how things are going to move forward. I'm going to give it about a year. I'll wait till the meeting in October, which, by the way, this might shock you. I am hoping to attend as an observer. I am not a politician. You can attend, I'm assuming, and I will find out. Truth Seeker question: did this group all determine the time and place to attack at the same time? In my opinion, this is just my opinion, yes, but it's not them that deciding. It's going to be Iran making the final decision, because it has to be coordinated, especially if will be certain type of weapons that Iran is going to be providing these groups. That's the way I see it. But unless Hezbollah said that they will go unilaterally if they want to, and I won't be surprised. This is probably why the airport has been shut down in Beirut. So is the airport in Tel Aviv. 9 million people in Tel Aviv are now leaving. So it's yeah, X, good to see you. Shame on the governments of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Emirates, Egypt, Morocco, Pakistan, and Bahrain. And great job, Iran and the resistance. Yeah. So each one of them had its own reasons for agreeing. In the case of Morocco, I'm familiar with the case. The reason why they agreed to that, because Trump at that time decided to recognize the Western Sahara under the Moroccan Authority. It's a thorny issue for Morocco with Algeria, and that was the reason why. Plus, there are a lot of Moroccan Jews, and they are very, very influential, by the way. I'm very aware of that one. So each country has its own. The Saudis, well, I was aware of the trip of the prime minister at that time, Netanyahu back then, behind closed doors, and the meeting took place in United Arab Emirates, but it was a delegation that I think went to Saudi Arabia quietly. So that was way back, because the Saudi people have no tolerance for allowing even the military presence. They are not aware of it. So that's just our presence, that is. So okay, I'll see one last question if there is one here, guys. And David King, can Iran sanction Israel and support oil tankers in Persian Gulf? No, because there's no you support them in what? Because Iran doesn't send oil to Israel. Israel gets oil from elsewhere. What Iran can do. As a matter of fact, the OPEC Plus now decided no more increased production, and as a matter of fact, they want to sanction the U.S. I am preparing a video for you guys, a scripted one, an analysis that I did about what China just did to the U.S. regarding oil. I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm going to leave it a surprise. But this one, what Iran can do, and I know they will do that, should a war breaks out, rather, they're going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And that, it will be catastrophe, economically speaking, for all parties. So, and the U.S. can do squat about it. If the U.S. think they're going to intimidate the Iranians, it's not going to work. It's because Russia has delivered some advanced systems to Iran. Yeah, I confirmed it. And I will bring in back Larry Johnson to talk to him about this one here. Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. Ray Sogo, question, Saudi Arabia. I don't know if that question or statement. Saudi Arabia is fighting the economic war against the dollar, and Iran is fighting the hot war. Is that fair to say? Yeah, that could be. Because also the survival of the monarchy in Saudi Arabia depends on petrodollar. Because as I told you guys, how does the Saudi monarchy control the population? By providing stipends on a monthly basis, whatever way they do it. And where that stipends comes from? Petrodollar. So for Iran, it's a different story. Iran is dealing with much more a bigger issue that has to do with the strategic trajectory of West Asia in its entirety. The Saudis know that the Americans' dominance in the region, it's done for. And even the Saudis themselves don't hold sway anymore as much as Iran does currently. Yes, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, both of them being part of BRICS, there's always that tensions behind the scenes. But you're absolutely correct. One of them is pushing for the petrodollar because they need to think about the alternative to that. And the other one is thinking about the geopolitical landscape. But also Iran has a much bigger problem, like I mentioned earlier. And their bigger problem is that their intelligence services are infiltrated. That is where the issue is. Till they fix the hole, they're going to always be targeted that way. So. All right, guys, I hope you find this very informative. Be on the lookout for my next video that I'm going to be releasing soon. Usually, by the way, for all the members of the YouTube channel, all the members, thank you for your support. And by the way, I do release the video for you first before I release it public. So just to let you know, you do get something in return for your membership, and I am very grateful. To the Buy Me Coffee supporters and members and all that, I can't thank you enough for your continued support. To the private donors, there's 4 individual. I'm so grateful for your donation. It means a lot to me, and it will be put to good use. And mark my word on that. So thank you again to all of you. I say thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.